Congressman, you ready to jump into this? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining today. I'm Max Rose, Senior Advisor to VoteVets. We are living in incredibly perilous, scary, and important times as this unhinged president leads us on a march to a forever war. And as we rally our community to stop this effort, we are so incredibly grateful to have leadership like that which we see in Congressman Chris Deluzio, a man who has put the uniform on and continues to lead with relentless courage as a member of Congress. So, sir, thank you for everything you do. I'll pass it over to you for your thoughts. Hey, Chris, I think we need you to unmute.
We good? I was rolling, Max. I was rolling. All right, Max, honored to be with you, brother. VoteVets, of course. So proud to be with you guys in the fight tonight.
Now we can hear you.
Now you can hear me. Good.
Listen, we're so confident that you're going to say something so incredibly profound and important that's not just going to be the people that hear you amongst these viewers, over 400 of whom have tuned in, and we're expecting many, many more. But we're expecting that the administration is also going to hear you as we stop their march to a forever war. So thank you again, sir, for joining.
You bet. You bet. I'm proud to be here with you, Max. Look, I will tell you, I'm sitting here, on the Capitol Hill, heading soon to a briefing after this that we are finally getting as members of Congress from the Trump administration about this war they've started, asking the kinds of questions you expect us to ask. What the heck are your goals? What is your timeline? What are your objectives? What is the cost? We already know the cost we've seen in American lives, and we all know that the cost of war is real. I'm sure I've got fellow veterans on this call who may have served in the forever wars. I first raised my right hand and went off to the Naval Academy after high school. That service took me to Iraq, where I think we see a lot of parallels, and folks will know it. A war for regime change, a war without clear objectives, a war that we paid precious American blood and treasure. And yet a key difference I see, the American people had a say in that debate. Ultimately, the Congress made a bad decision, but the Congress voted for that war. That hasn't happened in this war in Iran that Donald Trump has started. There has not been a public debate. There has not been any decision by the American people to send our troops into harm's way. And yet we're going to have a vote tomorrow on a war powers resolution and bring a stop to this. It's a vote that I think we have to pass. And look, this connects to an issue bigger than just this one vote. The American people, I think, in Western Pennsylvania and beyond, they want life that's not a ripoff. They want our government doing something to bring down this cost of living emergency. I don't think they want billions spent on a foolish regime change war in the Middle East. And we know the Trump administration is blowing through billions of dollars already. At the same time, what have they done? They've cut healthcare and food stamps and more here at home. And they are also, I know my fellow veterans know this, they've been taking a sledgehammer to our VA. They've been gutting and pushing care out from the VA. At the same time, they're making more veterans every day in this war, veterans who have already, and there will be veterans who are wounded, and they're Americans who already have paid the ultimate price in this. It's a good reminder, by the way, we should pre-fund veterans care before anyone gets sent to fight. We've got a bill, the Full Cost of War Act, that I know you guys care about. And this administration, it's not just all the things we've talked about. They're going after veterans in Congress like me and like Mark Kelly, you're going to hear from tonight, who's a Navy brother, a hero to this country. And I know that neither of us, any of us who've been involved in this administration attacks on us, are going to be intimidated not going to give these people a single inch. And that gets to a really important point. They don't want strong veteran voices standing up right now, speaking up, bringing our experience from the last set of forever wars to what they're trying to put more Americans into right now. So keep speaking up. I am proud to be with you guys in this fight. Max, back to you, but let's go get them, guys.
So let me ask you, sir, what do we do?
I mean, one thing.
What can we all do right now? Who should we call? Who should we write? Who should we text? What can we all do to help this effort?
The menu of options is large, as you know. One thing, sign up and take action that I think you guys are going to share with VoteVets. You guys are doing good work. It's a strong group that's speaking truth to power. And our veteran voices, I say our veteran voices, no veterans the same, but our veteran voices are really strong and powerful. I think VoteVets staff, you guys will drop a link, I'm sure, to give folks a way to sign up. But we got a lot to say as veterans, no matter where you served, how long, which branch. We have a powerful voice in this, and this is the time to step up and get involved.
Yeah. Now, listen, I want to ask you a question because I'm pissed off about something. It seemed like at one point we had this eureka moment in our politics that there was unity around opposing forever wars. Heck, even Donald Trump ran on opposing forever wars. What the hell happened?
That's Max, that's the $1 million question, man. It's a great question. And, you know, I talked to guys or gals I served with. I talked to veterans in my part of the world, left, right, and center. There is such skepticism about these regime change wars, and especially from families who had someone or who they themselves served in Iraq or Afghanistan and what they saw over 2 decades. What we still see from our generation of veterans, right, who will carry the cost of those wars for as long as our generation's around. And I think we don't want to see the same mistakes again. I don't relish talking about the fact that Americans have already paid the ultimate price in this. There are wounded Americans in this war. That is serious stuff. And you don't just rush in and fight wars that you don't need to fight when the cost is so profound. And I think the fact that we're seeing this administration start another war in the Middle East for regime change, it's not just wrong. It's a betrayal of what you just talked about. You heard from candidate Donald Trump that he didn't want to start forever wars. He said he'd be the peace president.
Right.
Doesn't look like the peace president to me.
Now, you do an amazing job of connecting the dots here on affordability and these billions of dollars that are being spent on this unnecessary forever war. I want you to dive into this a little more here because, you know, what we're hearing left and right is some people saying almost like they're aghast. Whatever happened to my groceries being a political issue? Now it's forever war again?
No, and look, I'm 41 years old, okay? You're my age or younger, or even a little older. We're the first Americans since, the Second World War. The data says you don't expect to be better off than your parents. That's a failure in the American dream. Mm-hmm. And I think you talk to most people, no matter their politics, they want our government doing something to fix that. And when you have this administration and this congressional majority who just passed bills to take health care from people, take food stamps away, who are doing things to make people sicker and poorer, and yet they've got no problem finding billions of dollars for a regime change war, that tells you all you need to know about their priorities. Yeah. I think the American people are pretty darn clear about this. I've seen the polling. I know what my constituents say. They don't want overseas adventures and wars we don't have to fight. They want investment right here at home to make life less of a rip-off.
Amen. Now, look, this administration, we'll close out with this, and I think this speaks to these perilous times here. This administration is talking with utter certainty that they know what's going to happen in the future, that they can just start this bombing and end it when they want. Is it guaranteed? Are they controlling everything right now? What's because we're all afraid that this is going to be another forever war, that this is reckless. You agree here, or do they have this under control?
Max, I think whoever tells you they've got all the answers for what will happen in war, in combat, is either a fool or they're lying to you. You don't know. The uncertainty is tremendous. And when you're doing something like knocking out the senior leadership of another country, and you're going to say you know what will happen the next day, the day after that, you don't. You really don't. And if we haven't learned anything from the misadventure in Iraq, we certainly should have learned that it is not some small thing to topple a regime. even with the most substantial planning you could possibly do. And I have no evidence that that kind of planning happened here.
Right.
So I think there is profound risk. These people ought to be much more humble at what they've gotten American troops into.
Well, look, one of the reasons why VoteVets has fought for 2 decades in opposition to forever wars, helping elect veterans, is to make sure that the right people would be at the table when it came to decisions of war and peace. Now, we have done an amazing job of helping to elect such fantastic leaders like yourself, but now we have to make sure that that debate happens in the halls of Congress. That's why the framers wanted it that way. So thank you for leading this fight to make sure that we don't have forever wars and that we follow the Constitution. So God bless you again, sir. Do you want to close us out with anything?
No, Max, you hit the nail on the head. Thanks for the work you're doing. Thanks to VoteVets for what you're doing. Sign up, get involved, folks. This is a time for veterans to really speak out and be heard.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. Now, look, it's really my great honor now to bring General Paul Eaton onto the stage for just a few minutes. General, thank you. It's great to see you. Thank you for your incredible leadership, your lifelong service. Now I want to jump in with a quick question here because you released a Substack with incredible foresight just hours before this war kicked off, talking about the potential dangers. Now, you took part at a leadership position in the last war in Iraq. You saw these perilous mistakes. What do you see happening now, and why does it scare you so much?
Max, I'm flattered to be here. Thank you very much. And to everybody out there, I've watched VoteVets for about 20 years in either advisor capacity or other. And I've watched this amazing organization become bigger, better, and wiser because of the veterans in it, the families of veterans, friends of veterans. I thank each and every one of you for making us and our efforts better and more productive. And Max, to your question. So a lot of us are looking at this thing who served in Iraq and are thinking, this is Iraq 2.0. This is a failure on the part of the administration to look forward and really answer the question, what is next? Military planning, we do the plan, then we do the contingency planning that answer the question of what if happens, and we do the sequels, the what's next. And based on what we're hearing out of the Pentagon, what we heard was from the Secretary of Defense, insults to our allies, a fact that we're not going to have rules of engagement on how we're going to operate in the Gulf. He only addressed the absolute pointy end of the spear and the violence that this amazing military can bring in a very small place. So at the operational level of warfare, at the tactical level of warfare, we are doing great. But there is a failure on the part of the administration that men like Chris Deluzio and Mark Kelly are there to make sure that we do better. And the fact that this plan was not vetted through Congress, the fact that Congress and all the amazing veterans in Congress did not have an opportunity to guide, coach, and mentor the leadership, civilian and military, that only makes us better.
Absolutely. I want to focus on that for a minute because everyone's talking about congressional approval like it's a nice to have, something like an ornament on a tree. This is about making sure that people are thinking about those tough questions, that members of Congress are involved, questioning generals, questioning civilian military leaders. Talk to us a little bit about some of the assumptions that you saw in the war in Iraq, that if there had actually been cogent, correct planning, maybe lives would have saved and maybe that war wouldn't have taken over a decade.
I'll say 2 points. First, there was the assumption that the Iraqi political infrastructure would remain in place, be receptive to the arrival of the American fighting force. That was a failed assumption. There was no contingency plan to address that failed assumption. and witnessed the Coalition Provisional Authority, the CPA, headed up by Ambassador Bremer, a very good man, but this thing was thrown together in great haste, and it was thrown together along ideological lines, like, are you against abortion? Literally, that kind of question was asked of all the people who populated CPA. And you don't get the best and brightest when you go down an ideological path that is groupthink oriented. So we had no play, we had no force, we had no plan to fall in on Baghdad to provide the Viceroy, Ambassador Bremer, with the men and women who would be able to guide Iraq to not a Madisonian democracy, but at least a functional civilian infrastructure.
Are you seeing poor planning now? Are you? Because part of what was so important about this Substack you released as senior leadership at VoteVets is you identified the fact that we're not planning, we're not acknowledging how complex war with Iran could be.
When the President of the United States and the Secretary of State are talking past each other, disagreeing with each other on the same day in different places, the rank and file, the people who are fighting this war, are looking at each other going, I'm not sure the commander-in-chief or his staff understand what's going on down here. So brilliant military members are doing exactly what they need to do, but we don't know what the end state is. We don't, we talk about ends, ways, means. What are the ends? We don't know that. So we've got this capacity to develop leverage. Americans do that brilliantly, but this administration does not know how to use that leverage to shape the outcome of what we're doing.
Well, General, thank you so much again for your incredible leadership and foresight and courage. I think now we're going to bring in the leader of the Vet Voice Foundation. Janessa, are you there?
Hey, Max, thanks so much.
She is. All right, great.
Good afternoon.
We're just dealing with one amazing background after another. This is fantastic. Well, it's great to see you. I want to pass the mic off to you to talk about the work that you're undertaking right now and why this is such a perilous and important and significant moment as we continue our collective opposition and awareness campaign against forever wars.
Thank you so much, Max. And hey, I'm so sorry, everyone. I was muted again. I apologize. Having a little problem with the streamer there, but nice to meet you. I'm Janessa Goldbeck. I'm a Hey, folks. All right, we'll try this one more time. My name is Janessa. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm the CEO of Vet Voice Foundation. We're here to talk about Mark Kelly and the incredible work that he and his team are doing to stand up for veterans, to make sure that all of us, our voices are heard on Capitol Hill. We're all deeply concerned about the situation in Iran, our friends and family who are in uniform, as well as the civilians who may be caught in the crossfire. But we're also really concerned about the threats to our Constitution, the fact that that this war has not been brought in front of Congress to be discussed before missiles were launched, the fact that our constitutional rights are under threat. Senator Kelly is going to talk a lot about the conflict at hand. But before, just weeks ago, this administration was attacking the senator for using his First Amendment rights to speak up and speak out about the illegal actions that he saw from his vantage point. The senator and a number of other members of Congress made a video a few months back that reminded all veterans of their oath to the Constitution, that they have a requirement to obey all lawful orders, as well as a requirement and a duty to refuse illegal orders. And for making that video, for speaking that truth, this administration and the Department of Defense came after Senator Kelly and threatened to censure him, to reduce him in rank, to take away his retirement pension that he earned over his time in service. And as veterans, we believe that we have an obligation not just to speak out in defense of ourselves, but also in defense of the Constitution. And so Vet Voice Foundation, alongside 41 retired former service, senior service officials, including retired generals, retired flag officers, filed an amicus brief in federal court, standing with Senator Kelly and speaking up and saying that he had every constitutional right to speak freely, that because he was a retired veteran, a military officer, NASA astronaut, that his voice matters and yours does too. And a federal judge agreed with us, ruled in favor of Senator Kelly, has also, the administration has come after him again, trying to indict him. A grand jury refused to do so. We know that the administration will continue their attacks on Senator Kelly and all of our constitutional rights. And for that, we will be in the fight with Senator Kelly at every stage. It is now my great honor to introduce the man of the hour, Senator Kelly, a distinguished veteran of the U.S. Navy, an astronaut, and now a senator from Arizona, from the great state of Arizona. With that, Senator Mark Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator.
Hey, thank you, Janessa. And I want to make sure everybody can hear me, right? Janessa, you can hear me?
Coming through loud.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you, Max, as well. Max, I really like seeing my STS-134 Endeavor shirt on you. That was a nice surprise. But also thanks to VoteVets for putting this event together. So, hey, a little bit about me. I served in the United States Navy for 25 years. I was stationed aboard the USS Midway in the beginning part of my career, just prior to and during Operation Desert Storm. I flew 39 combat missions off of that ship over Iraq and Kuwait. I also have a little bit of the unique distinction of flying a combat mission over Saudi Arabia, a close air support mission, and dropped weapons in a place called at a town just 50 miles south of the border. Khafji was the name of the town. But after that, I went to NASA. I flew 4 missions on the Space Shuttle Discovery twice and Endeavor twice. Hey, public service has always been in my DNA, so to speak. My parents were both police officers. My dad also served in the Army. My grandfathers, one served in the Navy in the Pacific, the other in the U.S. Merchant Marine in the Atlantic. So public service was something that we always thought we would do, and for the right reason. I mean, we've got, challenges out there as a country. And for me, it was always about what could I do to make a difference. I never expected to be in the United States Senate, though. My wife, Gabby Giffords, she was the member of Congress in our family, and she went to Congress in 2007. And then in 2011, when she was meeting with her constituents at a grocery store, she was shot in the head, 6 people killed, 12 others injured, happened in about 15 seconds. But now I've been here for about 5.5 years, I think. And it has been a challenging time. I've been here through a pandemic, through an insurrection, an impeachment trial, an election, obviously the return of Donald Trump here, last year. And it's been, quite something. The war in Europe, the Midnight Hammer operation in Iran last summer, the capture of Maduro in Venezuela, these boat strikes in the Caribbean, and now the United States at war with Iraq, with Iran, and I know we're going to get into that a little bit more and into my case. But I really want to thank all the veterans on this call. The service that you provide to our country. Many of you, most of you, if not all of you, could be doing something differently or could have done something differently. Where you maybe lived in a better place, made more money. Maybe it would have been a little easier to support your family. And the way I look at this, it's not only the member that serves and risks their life for our country, it's also the families that serve. I think they get a ton of credit for this too. And just over the last couple days, we lost 6 service members in the Middle East because of this conflict, these combat operations. And I think it's really fair to say this is a war. Donald Trump said we've gone to war. Secretary of Defense said we've gone to war. It's interesting. That's hard to get that out of some of my Republican colleagues in the United States Senate, because that presents some constitutional issues, and we can, talk about that here in a bit. But hey, putting your life at risk and putting yourself in harm's way, and the sacrifices all of you, make for this country is commendable. And I want to thank all of you for your service. We need, young people, smart people to continue to step up and serve, because we truly do have the most powerful and capable military that this planet has ever seen. We want to keep it that way. We've got adversaries across the globe. We've got to focus on the ones that matter. I've got serious questions about this conflict we're now in, and how this has, how does this help the American people? Many young people especially can't afford a place to live. 50% of Americans are having a hard time affording food. Many people have just been kicked off of their health care. Kids' school lunch programs are being cut. And by my estimate, we're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars again in the Middle East with no end game in sight. So with that, let me turn it over to back to Janessa, I think, or maybe Max is going to handle the Q&A. I was not briefed on this part. But
that's actually, Senator, that's actually a perfect bridge to what I was just about to say to you. You correctly noted that we are wearing shirts today in support of some amazing, and recognition of some amazing missions that you have led and conducted. But what it says on the back of our shirt is that we got your 6. And I want you to know that we have sold thousands and thousands of these shirts across the country, because in every single state, in every single community, there are people that are standing up, veterans, family members of veterans, supporters of veterans, who are saying that you are not alone in this. And we are so honored that you would be with us today. And we're so proud of all the service that you've conducted, both in uniform as well as now in the halls of Senate. So look, today was a big day and an interesting day, I presume. You were briefed on what's going on. And, a few of us, particularly the folks that are just tuning in now, maybe we're a little curious. Maybe the administration actually has a justification for what's going on. Maybe they actually have a plan. Now, let's give it a shot. What did you learn today? Is that the case?
Max, I think you're giving them too much credit here. I mean, this administration, you think we're going to learn a lot that we didn't know before? I mean, it's just more of the same. What is the justification of a full-blown war with Iran? Is this about regime change? Well, sometimes, depending who you're talking to. Is it about their nuclear weapons capability? Well, today from one person in the skiff, yes, the other didn't even mention it. Is it about their ballistic missile capability? Is it about their Navy? It was interesting today, the president said their Air Force and their Navy are gone. I doubt that's the case. I couldn't get a straight answer, about that from the Secretary of Defense. I mean, are they really gone? And why do we have a president who continues to say stuff to the American people that are just fundamentally, it's untrue? Is he not being briefed correctly? Is he not paying attention? Or does he like to just share things that are not accurate? Or is this conflict, did it happen because of a perceived threat that was just in the future and has more to do about one of our allies than it does about us and our own decisions for our own security? and our own national defense. So I think it's very fair to say it's still unclear. We get, different opinions at different times from different people. But it's not surprising. I mean, are any of us surprised? When you look at the big things that this president and this administration has done over the last, 14, 15 months, the big ones are immigration enforcement, tariffs, and his big piece of legislation, his big tax cut. And now this, and in maybe Venezuela as well, and the 5 things, there have all been, at least this, tax cuts, tariffs, and immigration enforcement have all been sort of a disaster. We've got dead Americans in Minneapolis, people beaten up, communities just torn apart, people's rights violated. On the tariffs, that's been a bad deal for the American people. Their costs have gone up. And then on his legislation,
I'll give you something else that's been a disaster and was utterly reckless. And that was the attack that this administration has waged on you specifically, and several others, also great members and leaders, who put out a very simple video. And I think their intent was to try to shut you up, to try to quiet you down so you wouldn't stand up during times like this. Are you going to be quiet now? Are you standing back in the threatened by what they've been saying?
Not at all, Max. When we have briefs like the one today with the director of the CIA and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, I make a point to stand not much further away than this camera is from where I'm sitting. And I can almost reach, by reaching out, I can almost reach the name tag of Secretary Hegseth from where I'm sitting. That's basically right across from him, to make sure that he knows that I am not backing down. I'm not going to be intimidated. But it wasn't just about silencing me and my other 5 colleagues. This is about silencing veterans, over 2 million veterans across the country. Wow. It's about shutting everybody up. They don't like it when somebody goes on TV. Let's say somebody, like General Eaton. I don't know if he does a lot of this, but folks that go on TV and might speak out against the government for, what they're doing with the military. I mean, we have, highly credible and respected, military veterans, senior leaders, both officers and enlisted, who often go on TV to give their expert opinion on things. And when it's contrary to what this administration thinks, and if somebody speaks out against the president, they don't like it. So that's why they're going after me, to try to chill the speech of over 2 million veterans.
VoteVets was started almost exactly 20 years ago with the purpose of stopping future forever wars, making sure that there was the political courage in place, that there were the right leaders in place to stand up, not years after a forever war started, but right at the onset to prevent it. Of course, it was inspired by the war in Iraq, making sure that would never happen again. Are you seeing things happen right now, the lies, the bombing, that are reminding you of the forever wars of the past?
Yeah, I served in the opposite of the forever war, which was the first Gulf War, Desert Storm. We had a clear mission, an objective, a timeline. We had strategic goals. We had an administration in place that could actually execute on a plan. I believe we had a president that people could tell him when they thought he had a bad idea. And we had people around him that could speak truth to power. That doesn't exist right now. So I look at this as more like, not like Desert Storm, but more like Iraq in 2003 and the 2 decades that followed. That's what this feels like. That's what I think it's shaping up to be. The war that you and maybe many people on the call served in. And that's going to be a big problem. If that comes
Absolutely.
to pass, that happens, is if that's what this turns into, we're going to see a lot more dead Americans, and we're going to see trillions of dollars spent. Already, it's on track to be hundreds of billions.
Right.
That's what this could turn into. So I'm really, really concerned about this, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that that doesn't happen.
You know, as we talk about lies, we still have yet to hear a consistent and valid reason why this started in the first place. I thought, Senator, that they destroyed the nuclear program months ago. Have they given you a consistent and honest and transparent and valid reason why they started this in the first place and when they did it? Particularly, why did there have to be such a sense of urgency to not go to Congress to start?
Well, first of all, you know, why a sense of urgency when you're sort of in the middle of negotiations with the Iranians? I mean, we were still talking to the Iranians, and then, you know, suddenly, you know, Donald Trump decides that, well, that's not going exactly like he wants, so let's just jump in there and attack Iran, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me. You know, hey, I think we can all agree the Ayatollah, bad dude. You know, it's good that he's gone, but who comes next is really unclear. And what was this about? Regime change? Their Navy? I mean, the Navy thing is rather new, to get rid of their naval capability, which is directly connected to the Straits of Hormuz, but also to eliminate their ballistic missile capability. And Max, like you say, their nuclear capability, this president said, was obliterated. So how can this be about a capability that's been obliterated? Obviously, it was not. I said that many times this past summer, not obliterated. Damaged, yes. I think it's fair to say it was significantly damaged, but not gone. And now what do you do? If you can't get rid of it from the air this summer with a bunch of B-2s and penetrating GBUs, I mean, how are we going to do this now without putting boots on the ground? That's the other big question. And when you start putting people on the ground, you know, that's when you wind up in a quagmire that just goes on and on and on with a lot of dead Americans and, you know, no clear way out of this.
Right.
They didn't have a plan, and I'm still trying to figure out how the hell does this help Americans afford rent and groceries and healthcare?
Amen. Amen to that. Last I checked, these bombs cost money. Right?
They cost a lot of money. And by the way, when oil doesn't flow through the Straits of Hormuz, the price goes up if they got to go around the Horn of Africa. I mean, that's going to drive prices up. We're seeing it already. And when the price of energy goes up, the price of everything goes up.
But Senator, I thought that MAGA and Donald Trump was against forever wars. I remember Stephen Miller tweeting during the last presidential election, "Oh, a vote for Harris is a vote for forever wars." Were they just lying to everybody?
Yeah. I think it was also J.D. Vance or Pete Hegseth, one of them. I think it was J.D. Vance said we only get into these forever wars when we elect dumb presidents. Well, look where we're going now, right? And it is, it's just kind of. I'm really surprised we find ourselves here, because this is not what this president ran on. In 2024, he said he's not going to get us into another war. Pete Hegseth said the same thing. And you talk about the MAGA base. I mean, these guys are now all over the map. Many of them, like Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, has been very vocal speaking out about this. She said something yesterday in a tweet. And I was kind of surprised because I never thought I would agree with her, so specifically. I could have copied that and pasted it into my own Twitter as my tweet about like, why are we here and what is the goal? What is the president trying to achieve?
Right. But the other thing is, look, you've served under a president, or excuse me, been an elected official when there was a president from your own party. And you've actually expressed moments where you've disagreed, you've shown independence, you've shown courage. Surely most of your Republican colleagues campaigned on being against forever wars. Are they standing up alongside you now in opposition to this war in Iran?
We're going to find out.
They could have flip-flopped that quickly.
Oh, yeah, they can. I mean, we'll find out tomorrow when we vote on the War Powers Act, that resolution. Tim Kaine's going to put it on the floor, and we'll see who votes yes on this resolution, who votes with us. I think we'll get all of the Democrats, maybe with the exception of one, and we'll see if we can get a handful of Republicans, to vote that we do not agree with this and we do not authorize it. They can flip-flop pretty quickly. They'll tie themselves in knots trying to explain the actions of this administration. And that's the one thing that I really struggle with. I see some of my colleagues, they walk into the Senate chamber, and it's hard for me to understand, how do you do that? How do you stay vertical and walk like that when you don't have a spine? Hard to figure out.
Wow. So you're voting on this, you're a yes. Now,
yeah.
And please tell. We want to hear more about this, because VoteVets just announced several hours ago
that
this is a red line for us. This is a signature moment where we are taking names, taking numbers, and we want to know that every single Democrat and Republican who said they have a spine is with us on this vote. So please tell us more about your vote.
Yeah, I mean, with this is a War Powers Act resolution, and in the Constitution, it is up to Congress to declare war. The Article 1 branch of government declares war. The Article 2 branch of government, can defend the country, right? The president can defend the country from an imminent threat. When he uses military force, then he has 60 days. It can be extended to 90, but has 60 days to go to Congress and ask for permission. But to declare war, that is a role of Congress. And he is throwing around the war word here pretty liberally. And so is Secretary Hegseth. I hear from my Republican colleagues, not publicly, but often in the skiff. So we're at war with Iran. And that should have been authorized by Congress, and he just ignored us. This has been a trend. It's not just this president, where presidents on this issue, on national security, have grabbed more power over decades. But what Donald Trump did here, I think, is very objectionable, because this is such a large-scale military operation that I don't think there's any argument that could be made that we are not at war with Iran. So should have come to us. He didn't come to us. We're going to have the vote. We're going to see where people fall out.
And you think Donald Trump right now is calling these senators? Donald Trump is calling these House members?
I don't know. He's probably trying to put some pressure on a few of them that may have indicated that they could be a yes and vote with the majority of the Democrats. I don't think he's got to call many of them. I mean, they tend to fall in line pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, we wish they had courage and a spine, as you say, like you do. I do want to point out, though, that there are boots on the ground right now. Right? Everyone's talking about the potential for a land war. We tragically lost service members in the bombing in Kuwait. There are service members throughout the region. This is what war looks like. Do you think the administration, did they think about this? It feels like to us on the sidelines, like they thought this was just going to be easy in and out. And it is scary, because we do not want another forever war.
Yeah, I think what they thought would happen is, when the Ayatollah was dead, that the Iranian people just took control of the government. It's not that simple. I mean, there were a bunch of the leadership killed, but not everybody. And it's a big military. The Iranian Republican Guard is 1 million armed service members. It is a huge force that to some extent has a bunch of loyalty to the people above them. Right now there is not a supreme leader, like no replacement, but you have people, running the show there, who will suppress any kind of uprising. So again, this White House didn't really think this through. The protest we saw a few weeks ago, where 30,000 Iranians were sadly murdered for trying to speak out against this government, was a fraction of the size of the protests in 1979. Also, the difference being during that Iranian revolution, when Ayatollah Khomeini took over, there were strikes in their oil industry. Energy prices, went up. The economy was just about shut down. We didn't see anything like that this time, and it's very poorly organized and it's unarmed. So the administration thinking, you drop some bombs. And here's the thing, Max, I always find it really interesting that people that have never dropped a bomb on something often feel like that is the solution to all the problems. Just bomb it. Just bomb the building, bomb the target. Hard to destroy stuff. I've dropped a lot of bombs on a lot of things, and it is not the answer. You need, you need a well thought out plan to affect serious change, and that was not this.
Well, we want to take a step back though and talk about, although as important as this ongoing conflict and war is, everything is interconnected. And you have been such a fierce warrior and fighter for the issues that Americans actually care about. How's the country looking right now? How's this administration doing when it comes to the matters and the issues that Americans care about most?
I'd give him an F. This president, he has used every opportunity to divide us. He gave an unhinged speech last Tuesday, the State of the Union. I hesitate to call it that because he wasn't talking about the state of the country. It was all about grievance and looking at every opportunity to divide us. There was a couple highlights. There were 3 parts in there, maybe a couple more that I, thought were positive, but most of it was so negative. It was insulting to the American people. So, and then you think about what has he done to help people? People are poorer and they're less safe. And if you're in Minneapolis or LA, your rights have possibly been violated. Could be your First Amendment rights of free speech, could be the right to be safe in your home. If you're Don Lemon, the right to do your job as a reporter, violated. And, we have an agency now that, for it to ever have any credibility in the future, it's got to be totally overhauled and people need to be fired. And if you're just trying to get by and afford your life, this president dumped a lot of tariffs right on top of you. He says it's paid by foreign governments. He's lying, or he just doesn't understand. I'm pretty sure it's the former. Right. And he just lies to the American people about it. And if you're somebody that's been having a hard time affording health care and you're buying your health care from the exchange or you're on Medicaid, he's screwed you over in a way that is just devastating to your personal finances. And you wind up with either without health care or, a health care plan that has such a high deductible that you just can't afford it. And when people don't have health care, they die in a lot of cases. So what has he done for the American people? I can't think of much. And that's just been in 14 months. What is this going to look like 3 years from now? And now we're in a war that could wind up in a ground war because he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't know anything about strategy, and he makes horrible decisions.
At VoteVets, we really pride ourselves on having long memories. I told you that this organization was really amazingly started with a mission 20 years ago, and that same mission lives on today. So we have long memories here.
Well, maybe the logo should include an elephant, but that also presents some other problems. Elephants have long memories.
Amen. We also might switch our logo to we got your 6, because we always do. We always have yours. But
thank you.
I want to talk about spending. I want to talk about the way that this administration wants to spend money and what was in that tax bill.
Yeah.
You know, because I thought, and I'm still guilty of believing people in campaigns. Maybe I'm maybe too naive. Who knows? But I thought they wanted to spend money to address the affordability crisis. What are the funding decisions that this administration has gotten behind, whether it's through legislation or just the administration? How are they spending money, and what and how is that designed to help people or hurt them?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that stands out above everything else is the fact that they gave a big giant tax cut to billionaires and multimillionaires, and they paid for part of it by kicking people off of healthcare or raising your healthcare rates if you got your healthcare from the Affordable Care Act. So they're essentially taking money from people that don't have a lot of it, that are just hardworking Americans that are struggling to get by. By the way, many of them veterans. Even current service members, who are often, sometimes service members are on food stamps, and they're cutting those programs, and they're literally taking that money and they're putting it into the pockets of billionaires. And it's obscene at a time when we have more income inequality in this country than I think we've seen in my lifetime. Right now, 1%, the top 1% of Americans own as much wealth as the middle class. This is a brand new feature of our economy. 1% of the people own the same as the middle class. And by the way, if you're below the middle class, you're really screwed. So yeah, I mean, the spending thing, they got all wrong. And if you want to talk about military spending for a second, I'm happy to talk about that. Because he just added a program that's going to cost $1 trillion and it isn't going to work. What's the program? Golden Dome. I mean, the physics on this thing, and I obviously I used to do stuff like this, right? I am personally very familiar with what it takes to rendezvous with something in space. It's really hard. And for me, it takes at least several revs around the planet, not in a half a revolution, which is what you have to do to take out an ICBM. And the physics on this favors the offense in a big way. And we could be bankrupted just by trying to keep up, because countries will just build more ICBMs and our interceptor system is going to cost more. But remember what I said at the beginning? It's probably not going to work. Right. So this is a fantasy that this president had. He threw it out there one day. He hears about the Israelis' Iron Dome. And he's thinking, well, why can't I have that? And by the way, I like gold. I like the color, like the drapes he mentioned yesterday. He likes the gold drapes. Let's call it Golden Dome. You guys go off and spend some money on it. He doesn't understand the physics of this. He doesn't understand how challenging it is. So we've got another program that's probably going to cost $500 billion to $1 trillion. It's not going to work. And it's going to be more taxpayer money that could have gone to something else. Now, I am all about funding our Department of Defense in a smart way where we can make sure that our service members still have the right stuff to do their jobs really, really well, better than anybody on the planet. But it ain't this. It's not Golden Dome. And then, I mean, I was just kind of fighting with this about the Sea-Launched Cruise Missile the other day, just today. A tactical nuclear weapon on a submarine. I don't want to get into details on it. A lot of military programs that we need somebody.
You're telling me, Senator, this administration wants to conduct forever wars, wants to give money away to rich people, take money away from people's health care. They didn't run on that, did they, huh? But now that's how they're governing, because they are corrupt and incompetent. But we are so thankful that we have leaders like you standing up. And the reason why we convene this incredible group today is because we want you to know that you are not alone, that we all stand here with you, because we are just so honored that we have, and proud and excited that we have servant leaders like you in office. So we want to give you the opportunity to offer some, big picture words here to close it, to start to close us out. And then I'm also going to give some folks some information about other things that we can do. But should we have hope? Is there any, you know, this can be hard, seeing all this happen, thing after thing after thing.
Yeah.
How should we look at this, and what do we do?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna tell you about what makes me really hopeful here. But first, let me just tell you what John McCain used to say. He said, "Things are darkest right before they go totally black." But I'm just kidding about that. That is I'm in John McCain's Senate seat, so I always try to quote the senator from my state of Arizona. I'm in his Senate seat, and I've always looked up to him.
Wow.
That's something he used to just joke about. Hey, we've got incredible challenges right now, but we're up to the challenge. You know, and this gives me a lot of hope that we have, I don't know, hundreds, maybe 1,000 people on this call, you know, right now that are motivated about making a difference and using their service, former service in the military for some good here to try to change the direction of the country. That's incredibly motivating. Max, I have a granddaughter, and I've got I better not say the second part. I've got a grandkid who's 4. And I was about to say something else my daughter would not have liked, but I have one grandkid, just one, and she's 4 years old, and she is, she's incredible. And I am just really happy that she's born in this country. And I think the future for young people in this country is better than it is anywhere else, despite all the challenges. We are the most generous. We're the most innovative country on this planet that it's ever seen. We're the wealthiest nation. We still have the strongest military that can protect our interests. There's so many things that are so positive. We got some problems to solve. And, you know, we're going to solve these at the ballot box. We're going to elect good candidates in races across the country. And we're going to take back some of these levers of power here in 2026. And then we're going to do it again in 2028.
Amen.
Get this country back on track.
Amen. Well, thank you for bringing up these midterms, right? And we should close out with this. What should people do to support you and to support our efforts to flip the House and flip the Senate?
Well, there's some great candidates out there. I mean, House members, look for the House members you can, you know, support that, you know, have a good chance of winning and flipping a House seat, or ones that are vulnerable, that could lose their House seat if it's a tight race. And the same thing in the Senate. You know, we have opportunities in North Carolina with Roy Cooper, Sherrod Brown in Ohio. John Ossoff needs to win. He's going to have a tough election in Georgia, so he could use some support. And then we got to win in a couple more places. And I feel pretty confident about that. And it's not just about supporting with money. It's about getting involved, helping a candidate, making phone calls, knocking on doors. You know, those retail politics can really make a difference and push somebody who, you know, might have wind up just short of a few votes. Hey, there was an election in the Virginia Assembly just maybe 10 years ago, I think now. It's probably about 10 years ago, where it was tied. Came out tied, and they basically flipped a coin to decide. So when people say their vote doesn't matter or the work that they do doesn't matter,
Right.
no, it actually matters a lot.
Absolutely, it does. And the work of everybody on this call matters. The only thing, Senator, we think you're perfect. We're just going to add one thing to what you said, which is sign up with VoteVets to take action. VoteVets.org. Our friend JJ, who's done an amazing job orchestrating this whole stream, is going to put this in the chat. Again, sign up to take action with VoteVets. So we will be out there in every single community to flip the House, flip the Senate, and hold this administration and this extremist MAGA Republican Party accountable for marching us and moving us into yet another forever war, all while they're making life more unaffordable, more dangerous, and more difficult for average day, everyday working people. So, Senator, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to continuing to partner. God bless you again.
Hey, thank you, Max. And just to reiterate what Max said, please support VoteVets. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Have a great night.
Thank you.